Hello. So we have our third one in the Disney. Well, no, this is second. Sorry, second one I'm recording. Second one that'll go up. These are going in a non-order for the way that I'm recording them, just because of time. So this one is going to be my Disney human couples rank. So this is animated couples that are not princess couples. So none of the princesses will be on this list. None of the princesses and their guys are going to be on this list. This is all like quote unquote non-royal couples. Two of these kind of qualify as a little bit of a really non-royal, but still, yeah. We have my Disney Happily Ever After type book, which is just adorable. It has different quotes about, from different Disney movies and different moments in Disney. I was trying to find one that had one of the couples I was going to talk about in it today, but I couldn't find one that has. There's none of the ones that are in here. This is a lot of the princesses, which is fine, and there's like a few other things in here too. We have Carl and Ellie from Up. There we go. Carl and Ellie from Up. That'll be on a different video. That'll be on a Pixar couples video that'll be like next year or something like that once I've watched through all of the Pixar movies. So let's start with some animated human couples. So there are 8 couples on this list, and number 8, we have Anastasia, Tremaine, and the baker. Now this couple originates in Pocahontas. Yeah, Anastasia is in Pocahontas. This couple originates in Cinderella 2: Dreams Come True, which is the sequel, of course, to the original movie. That the movie itself, the first movie came out in 1960, and then of course the sequel came out in like the early 2000s. And then of course they had another one that came out a little bit later that was Cinderella 3: A Twist in Time. But this one is, in the second movie, we get this sequence where we have it that Anastasia falls in love. And I think it's I don't remember if it was the last story in this movie or if it was like the second to last one in the movie. But it's like the mice are telling stories to Fairy Godmother. And then, of course, they talk about when Anastasia fell in love. And it's the whole thing of Anastasia fell in love with the baker. And, Lady Tremaine wanted her to have nothing to do with the baker. And, he's not worthy of her type of a thing. And Anastasia, Cinderella helps Anastasia. And, Anastasia and the baker kind of have like a problem at one point because like she thinks that he's in love with someone else. And then she finds out that no, he's not. No, he loves me. And, the baker affirms that, and Anastasia affirms that that they love each other. I'm like, it's still the love at first sight thing, which I'm just like, I have issues with love at first sight. I can understand like infatuation and interest at first sight, but love at first sight can be a little bit of a maybe, maybe not type of a thing, in my opinion. Doesn't mean that it can't happen. For all I know that, I may, the first time I see the person I may fall in love with, it might be like love at first sight, but it all depends. But when we see Anastasia and the baker together, they're very, make a very adorable couple, in my opinion. And of course, that relationship kind of helps Anastasia and Cinderella kind of start to have a better relationship. Which is very nice because, Cinderella then does get to have one of her sisters back, which is nice. And we do kind of get like a loop around to this because, Cinderella 3 is supposed to take place, I'm assuming, after the second one, but the thing is that, like, it states to take place on, like, Cinderella and the Prince's anniversary, so it's a year later, but then it's also, Anastasia does not seem to be with the baker at this point in time, because if she was, then she wouldn't want to go back in time and, like, have all this stuff happen. But, certain things happen, and, like, it kind of helps her and Cinderella actually start to rebuild a relationship that way again. And then they still show that she ends up with the baker again, which is adorable. So that's just kind of like an adorable loop around there. Next on the list, number 7, we have Milo Thatch and Kidagakash, Kita Nadaka. Princess of Atlantis, Queen of Atlantis. Of course, from Atlantis, The Lost Empire, which of course came out in 2001. And Milo and Kida, of course, throughout the whole first movie, they kind of start to build this friendship. She kind of, helps heal him at the beginning of the movie, when they first meet. And then, of course, they develop this friendship in regards to the fact that, oh, he can speak Atlantean. And then, of course, she tries to get him to teach her how to read Atlantean and everything. And so they can, learn more about the history of Atlantis and everything. Then, of course, so many other things happen. And of course, he goes after her when when Rourke takes her, when she's, been, absorbed / merged with the crystal and everything. And, Milo goes after her because it's the right thing to do. And of course, at the end of the movie, we do see the two of them together, and it does appear that they are finally in a relationship. It was like a relationship that was built more on friendship, and then it did seem that it did turn into like they were in love with each other, because in the second movie, in Milo's Return, it is shown that the two of them are officially, I think they are officially married type of thing via Atlantean law. I guess they're married. And Kida is the queen of Atlantis, and I think Milo is either king or queen's consort or prince consort or whatever the affiliation would be for that. I don't know. They don't go into that in the movie. But so we see that relationship there between the two of them, and I very much have always liked Milo and Kida together. They're just adorable, and it's just I love it. It's nerd and woman that can beat the crap out of anybody, and then they get along so well and everything. I just that's just an adorable thing that I've always liked. What can I say? I like nerds. I am a nerd. It kind of goes with the territory of anime and comics and Disney and everything like that. Kind of being a nerd can be kind of a lonely thing, but at least you got a lot of imaginary friends you can talk to. Next up, we have couple number 6 on the list, which is Anita and Roger Radcliffe, who are, of course, from 101 Dalmatians. And then, of course, 101 Dalmatians Patch's London Adventure. That's the sequel that came out so many years later in the 2000s, when Disney was doing a bunch of sequels for a bunch of the original animated movies that they did, which I didn't have a problem with. I like most of them. Pongo and Perdita will be on the animal couples list, so don't worry. I have them on there, and Cinderella and Prince Charming will be on the princess list, of course, or were on the princess list, of course, depending on what order you watch these in. But of course, we have Anita and Roger, and of course, the whole plot with them is, of course, they have the cute meet because of Pongo and Perdita, and they get tied up in the leashes and then fall into the lake, and then fall into the pond, and then they start to fall in love with each other and everything, and which is just adorable. And they get married and everything, and then of course we cut to a little bit later when they're living together, once they're married and everything, and of course we just see this adorable couple, because at that point in time, the other couples that we'd all seen were all of the princess couples, were Snow White and her prince, and Cinderella and her prince, and then Sleeping Beauty came out within very soon, either before or after 101 Dalmatians did. So we hadn't really seen this modern type of couple. It was always the prince and the princess at that point in time. So Anita and Rod, in regard to animated stuff, so Anita and Roger were kind of this first depiction of a Disney kind of modern couple to a degree in one of their animated movies. And we see the affection that the two of them have with each other and everything, and how they play and everything like that, and they play off of each other and everything. And Roger, when he stands up to, Cruella and everything about the puppies. And then, of course, Anita, it's just Roger, you're my hero type of moment, which is just adorable. And, of course, by the end of the movie is, of course, Anita and Roger, of course, they get all the, Pongo and Perdita come back with all the puppies. And of course, they're going to have a Dalmatian plantation, which of course in Patch's London Adventure is kind of when they set up that's when they get the Dalmatian plantation, because it takes place within that short same time frame of just after everything happens. And of course, they kind of, the whole plot of the movie is I think they buy DeVille Manor, the House of DeVille, and they go there and they start, that's where they have all, 100 puppy, the 101 puppy, the 101 Dalmatians and everything. And, we see Anita and Roger throughout that. And of course, we do see their relationship throughout the course of the animated series that they had as well. But I don't remember, for some reason, I remember mentioning when I did the 101 Dalmatians videos, I remember mentioning something that at some point in the animated series that Roger and Anita got divorced, and then that either got canceled or they got back together, but by the end of the episode or something like that. I don't remember. I do not remember off the top of my head. That was a while ago. But, so we see, the interaction that those two have, and I've just always found them to be adorable. Next up, for number 5 on the list, we have David and Nani from Lilo and Stitch, which of course came out in 2002. And of course, we see their relationship throughout the course of all of the movies, and of course, the Lilo and Stitch, the animated series that they had. Nani and David, of course, it's they have this fun relationship where it's just David always seems to be this, he's the very cool type of character. He does fire dancing and everything, which is just fire dancing surfer type of a thing. And he's very supportive of Nani and in her regards to taking care of Lilo and everything like that. He's the one that finds her, the job when she needs a job. He helps her and Lilo when, everything happens at the beach. He's the one that's there with them to kind of help cheer them up and everything. And he very much cares for Lilo anyway, and I think he would be around Lilo even if Nani and him were not dating. He doesn't force her by any means, and there's even a moment in the animated series where I think it's Pleakley that convinces David that he needs to be smarter in order to get Nani's attention. So he combs his hair and he's wearing a suit and glasses, and Nani is just off to the side and she teases him a little bit. But by the end of the episode, she's just I like you the way that you are, not all gussied up or anything like that. But throughout the course of the series, we see them have, there's moments where they're dating, there's moments where they have fights, they go on dates throughout the course of the series. And one of the things that they have in either Stitch the series or Stitch and Owie, that are the 2 animated series that they had after Lilo and Stitch, Leroy and Stitch, the movie that take place after that, where Lilo is not really involved, but they do have a moment where, an episode where they do have it be that Lilo shows up and it's so many years later via time thing, and Lilo's all grown up and she has a daughter, and it's stated in that time frame that Nani had a child, and that was one of the things that happened. That was miscommunication along the line, that was Stitch wasn't aware of thing A that happened because of thing B, and Nani had a child, and we don't know we're assuming that it was David that David was the one that she was with at the time. David was the one that she married and had a child with. So, but we don't know anything else about that. Moving on to number 4 on the list, we have Esmeralda and Phoebus, who are of course from Hunchback of Notre Dame, and that movie itself came out in 1996. I love Hunchback of Notre Dame. I've talked about it before on the channel. Most of these movies I've talked about already on the channel. So these couples I've mentioned at times on the channel already. I was trying to think. All of these ones I have, and I think all the ones that I have in all the other videos, I've talked about at various points in times in, much more drawn out, forms. But for Esmeralda and Phoebus, of course, we have, they meet in, of course, Hunchback of Notre Dame. And of course, the Disney version is much different than the book by Victor Hugo. kind of a good thing that that's the case. But Esmeralda and Phoebus are, of course, Phoebus is, of course, the head of the guard that is supposed to take, supposed to serve Frollo and help keep peace in the city and everything. And he does not see the point in, like, hurting the gypsies. He doesn't want to hurt the gypsies and everything. Like, his first impression of, Esmeralda is just that she's just beautiful, and like he really, he just thinks that she's gorgeous and really, really likes her and everything. And he seems to be different than the other soldiers, which Esmeralda notices a bit. But of course, their first full interaction is, of course, inside of Notre Dame, when they kind of end up fighting via candelabra and sword, which is just one of my favorite adorable moments, where it's just like they're flirting and fighting at the same time, which is just adorable. And of course, he tells her to, claim sanctuary within the church, so that way they can't, so that way Frollo can't have, him drag her outside, and arrest her and punish her for something that she, that was the right thing to do in regards to defending Quasimodo. And of course, throughout the course of the movie, we see, him, he tells Quasi, it's like, if she, if you got her out of the building, that's fine. Basically, it's just like, she's lucky to have friends like you, type of a thing. I've wanted her to be safe and everything. And of course, she's the one that, saves him when he gets shot into the river. And, she's the one that, kind of heals him, helps, kind of fix him up a little bit. And of course, that's where they, that's where they kiss the first time, which unfortunately this results in, like, kind of the moments that these show kind of like break kind of Quasi's heart, unfortunately. Unfortunately they do. But of course, throughout the course of the movie, at the end of the movie is, Esmeralda and Phoebus, Quasi basically kind of, blesses the two of them to be together and everything. And of course, they do end up being together, of course, at the end of the movie. Paris is free and Quasi is, allowed to be around everyone again. You're now allowed to be around normal people. Quasi, thanks. Type of thing. It's just adorable. But of course, then we cut to Hunchback of Notre Dame 2, where of course it's so many years later, and the two of them have a son whose name is Zephyr, and he is, of course, his name is Zephyr, and him and Quasi get along great. Quasi's basically like an uncle for him, and we still see that Esmeralda and Phoebus are still very much in love in the sequel and everything. And throughout the course of the sequel, we do see several moments where Esmeralda and Phoebus fight, because of course throughout the course of the movie there's like people that come into town that are the circus, and like they're suspected of being the ones that are like robbing people. And Phoebus blames the circus, and he's like, as the audience, we know that he has the right to blame the circus, but the reasons that he gives for blaming the circus are also reasons that Esmeralda will be like, you mean like gypsies? And like that kind of doesn't help them very much. That doesn't help his argument very much. But eventually it is, they do make up and everything by the end of the movie, of course. And, their son gets kidnapped, and that's one of the things that, of course, okay, our son got kidnapped. Let's figure out what's going on here. And, of course, they do end up, saving their son with Quasi's help and everything. And at the end of the movie, they have the moment where it's like the part of the plot of the movie is that, at the end of the movie, there's supposed to be like this big holiday where like, Quasi rings this giant bejeweled bell, and that, the couples will stand under this archway and like proclaim their love for each other. And like, Esmeralda and Phoebus do that. And it's just like, I love Esmeralda and I love Phoebus, type of a thing. Like they proclaim their love underneath the archway, and then they kiss while the bell rings in the background and everything, like proclaiming their love for the whole town to hear, for all of Paris to hear, which is just a moment that I find so adorable. Because it shows that they've stayed in love for that time frame. Next up, Quasi got a girlfriend. We have, Quasimodo and Madeline, who are from Hunchback of Notre Dame 2, 2002, when that came out. And of course, throughout the course of this, throughout the course of the movie, we see, Madeline is initially very kind of taken aback and kind of horrified by Quasi, because she like runs away the first time that she sees him. But she's kind of like told that she, by her boss, bad guy in the movie, she has to try to like get information from Quasi in order to be able to get a hold of this bell, the giant bejeweled bell that the guy wants to steal. So he needs to get information out of Quasi, and that's what Madeline is there to do, is to get information out of Quasi and distract him and like lure him out of the bell tower so they can steal the bell. But throughout the course of that time frame, Quasi just kind of falls for her a little bit rather quickly. And he tries to, spoof, dress himself up a bit, make himself look a little bit neater and everything. And she just kind of finds that funny and everything. Like, they go on this nice date throughout the course of the movie. In the middle of the movie, they go on this very nice date, and she starts to realize that she does have feelings for him, and like she kind of refused to help the guy, refused to help her boss, but he's just like, if you don't help me, then I can't guarantee the Hunchback's safety. So it's either it's you lure him out of the bell tower so I can get the bell, or there may not be a Quasimodo around anymore, type of thing. So he threatens Quasi, threatens Quasi in front of her, and she lures Quasi away. And then of course when he finds out that she's helping the bad guy to steal the bell and everything, he of course gets very angry at her, rightfully so. But by the end of the movie, of course, during the climax of the movie, when they have to save Zephyr, he is able, he trusts her enough to help. She's the one that helps him save Zephyr, and they do. They save Zephyr, and that helps restore people's faith in Madeline. And of course, at the end of the movie, when Quasi is up, when everybody's in the town like proclaiming their love for each other, and Quasi's up there ringing the bell and everything, Madeline comes up and she apologizes to him, and she says, I do really like you. And they kiss, and then of course they proclaim their love for each other again. And one of the other things is that she could see the gargoyles too, which is just adorable, which shows that there's that connection there between them. But they do that, they both proclaim their love for each other. I love Quasimodo, and I love Madeline, and that whole thing there. And I love that. So it's it's like Quasimodo and her together. It is the whole thing of look past what's on the outside, in certain cases, which admittedly I kind of wish Disney would do that, where it's like the guy has to look past the stuff on the outside for the girl. But because they've done that with like Beauty and the Beast and Quasimodo in regards to look past what's on the outside type of thing and see what's more on the inside type of thing. But now we come to couple number 2 on this list. Okay, my top 2, I was just like, I really love both of these couples, and like every couple on this list I do love, and the top 2 are just like going back and forth in regard to like figuring out, okay, which one do I want, which one. Number 2 on the list is Tarzan and Jane Porter. And, they're from Tarzan, that came out in 1999, of course. And, of course, throughout the whole course of their relationship, it basically starts off as he sees her, and then he saves her from the baboons. And then, of course, they have the moment where, he gets, way too close to her in the tree. And, of course, they have, the hands together moment and everything, where they're, it's like we're the same type of thing. And then, of course, they have like the whole sequence of, the two of them, it's like, it's Tarzan learning how to be, learning about being a human, how to speak and how to read and everything like that. And, being taught by Jane and the professor and everything, and Clayton to a degree, but being taught by Jane and the professor. And, throughout that course is also the, like, kind of the center chorus of that is like the love song between the two of them. And, it's, we see Tarzan and Jane falling in love and everything. And, he agrees to show them the gorillas in order for Jane to stay longer, of course. And then, of course, he chooses to go with her, to go to London and everything, near the end of the movie, because he wants to be with her. And, of course, then, via, of course, plot, they have to go back and save all the gorillas and everything because Clayton is an a-hole. And, Tarzan, Jane and her father, of course, very much helping defend, the gorillas and save them and everything. And, she's the one that, gets caught out of her cage and everything like that. And, by the end of the movie is, of course, Jane has to chooses whether or not she has to, whether she wants to stay with Tarzan. And of course, she does choose to stay with him. And, she jumps off of the rowboat and swims back. And, she tackles him and kisses him, of course. And then, of course, she chooses to stay with him and the gorillas and everything. Because, that's where she belongs. And, of course, they get married, and she's, kind of the queen of the jungle in his case and everything. And of course, they kind of do a whole thing of like, yeah, I taught, Jane and the professor how to speak gorilla so they can talk to the gorillas and to Tantor and everything, which is fine and everything. It's just funny. Because like it just explains the whole thing of like, how can she understand the gorillas now? Well, Tarzan taught her how to understand the gorillas. Okay, sure, fine. But of course, and throughout the course of the animated series, we see, the development of their relationship and everything, and other times where they prove their love for each other kind of again and again throughout that time frame. And one of the other things in the Tarzan and Jane movie that they did, which is basically just kind of like frameworked around like 3 different episodes from the series that are like flashbacks, and Jane is, Tarzan, it's like their anniversary, and like Tarzan has like planned out this big anniversary party for them where it's like he has like this ring that has this big diamond on it for Jane to wear, and like all this other stuff, and like he's in his suit, his father's suit that he doesn't really like to wear, but sometimes Jane likes him to wear it because it's just like it's like the professor has this line in the movie, and it's from one of the episodes. It's, Jane lives in your world all the time. Is it that bad for you to live in hers for a few hours, type of thing? And of course, Tarzan, he realizes, yeah, it's, she chose to stay here with me, but that doesn't mean that she doesn't miss things about London every now and then. And that doesn't mean that I can't do things occasionally, like, wear my father's suit or do something like that helps her feel a little bit more at home at times, or like reminds her of home, type of thing, those sweet moments and everything. And I like how they do that with Tarzan and Jane. And now finally on to the last couple on this list, or my number 1 couple on this list, which you may have guessed via the shirt that I am wearing, are of course Hercules and Megara from Hercules, which of course came out in 1997. And subsequently, Meg does appear in the animated series, which I will go over. Okay, so of course the whole, their whole relationship literally starts off because he hears her scream and he goes and he thinks that she's a damsel in distress. And it's just like, I'm a damsel, I'm in distress, I can take care of myself. Have a nice day, type of thing. She's just like, no, I don't need your help. I can deal with the frickin' centaur in the river on my own. And of course, he does end up saving her from the centaur, but, he kind of makes a fool out of himself in the process. And of course, he just, kind of basically just like starts falling for her instantly. And like, she just like doesn't give a flying F about him to a degree at the beginning. She's just like, it's like, I have no interest in you, because of course her backstory is, of course, she had been in love with someone and she sold her soul to save his life, and then he ran off and abandoned her, and now she has to work for Hades for all eternity. And throughout the course of the movie, we see her kind of watch as Hercules gets more and more famous and everything. And of course she Hades is like, you find me his weakness, and our deal's up and you're free to go and everything. And so she goes to where Hercules is, his kind of mansion, villa, whatever place that he's living at with Phil and Pegasus and everything in Athens or Sparta, wherever it is that he's living at that point in time. I don't remember. I think it's Sparta, because it's still stated to be Sparta, I think, later on. Sparta goes through so much in that movie. I went over that before. But one of the things, of course, is she shows up there and she's just like, having fun teasing. And then, of course, she's just like, how about we go and play hooky and everything? And they go off and they have like this very nice date of, the whole day together, just, play and, fun thing and everything. And then they end up in this very beautiful garden, of course. And we have the moment where, Hercules she's asking him about the weaknesses, and, he's just like, I don't have any and everything. And she's just like, huh, well, that's helpful for me, I guess. Darn it. And of course, he gives her, the flower and everything when him and Phil have to run off and everything. And, when Phil and Pegasus show up, he gives her the flower and gives her the kiss, and, they leave. And then, of course, she has the whole song, it's like, I Won't Say I'm in Love, which is just one of my favorite Disney songs. One of my favorite ones. I love that song so much. It's just fun to sing. With the muses in the background and everything. And they just, and like she, Hades shows up and is just like, he doesn't have a weakness. Everybody's got to have a weakness. And she's just like, well, he doesn't. And he's just like, you know what? I think he does. And it's you, type of thing. And then, of course, Hercules makes the deal with Hades to give up his strength for 24 hours in order to, free Meg. And, he makes that deal for her. And then, of course, Hades tries to destroy that relationship by saying, oh, yeah, she's been working for me this entire time. And then he leaves them in misery. And then, of course, Meg is the one that, saves Hercules, pushes him out of the way so he doesn't get crushed by the pillar. And she's the one that gets injured. But, of course, he gets his strength back because, it's like, otherwise, if Meg gets hurt, you get your strength right back, yada, yada, fine. And, Hercules then has to, she's like, you have to go and save Olympus. Don't worry about me. Go save Olympus. And, of course, that's what he does. And then, of course, when he returns, she's dead by the time he returns. And he literally is just like, well, I can go do something. And I know exactly what I'm going to do. Goes all the way down to the underworld. He kind of pulls at Orpheus. He pulls an Orpheus where he literally goes all the way down to the underworld, past everything to Hades. And he's literally like, give me back Meg's soul now, type of thing. And, Hercules, dives into the pit of souls, the vat of souls, in order to save Meg. And of course, that's his heroic moment, which is just one of those moments where I say, you want an act of true love? He dives into this pool with no certainty that he will actually be able to save her, except for the fact of like, if he gets to her, she can leave regardless of whether or not he has to stay. It's like, she gets to live. Even if I have to stay here forever, she gets to live. And that's what was more important to him. And that's his, his act of true heroism, as his mother states, is, you were willing to give your life to rescue this young woman. And, he gets to her soul just in time. And that's, of course, that allows him to become immortal because he proved himself a true hero. And he takes her soul after he punches Hades back into the pit of souls, and he takes her soul all the way back up to the surface and returns it to her body, and she is revived, of course. And in regards to that then allows, that's, then him and Meg are whisked off to Olympus and everything, where it's, he's welcomed by the gods and everything. And he's just, it's like he gets this moment where he's just like, he's literally on top of the world. He's, he's a god now. He's immortal. He can return to Olympus, to his parents, to his birthright. And Meg is happy for him. And she's just like, she's just like, she's ready to walk away and like probably find a way how to get down from Olympus is probably going to be a fun thing. But, she's resourceful. She'll figure it out. But she's just like, basically like she's ready to walk away and like leave Hercules because this is what he's wanted. And he turns and he looks at her, and then he, it does the whole thing of, it's like, I've waited my whole life for this moment, but I'm going to stay on Earth with Meg because that's where I belong. That whole moment where he just like, he gives up his immortality. And this is the reason why they're my favorite Disney non-royal couple. He gives up his immortality to live with Meg, to have this finite amount of time where like, okay, yeah, I may end up dying and Meg will end up dying one day, but I would rather live, however many years, a human lifetime with her than live an immortal life without her. And, that's just one of those things that I just like, I love. And I know that they changed that so much from the Hercules mythos and everything that's in the actual mythology, but I was okay with that. That's one of the things that I'm okay with, because it's like, he's willing to give up immortality, this thing that he spent the last, however many years trying to train to do, to be a hero, to become immortal, to be with Meg. I hark on that a lot because that's just one of those moments. And it's just like, yeah, no, I'd rather live with her and be human and have this love with her than be a god. And in the animated series, throughout the course of the animated series, we do find out that Hercules and Meg had actually met before, because of course the entire animated series basically takes place during the whole, training sequence montage song thing that, Phil sings and everything, where he's like training Hercules and everything. The entire series takes place basically in that time frame, because like Hercules goes to like Athens High School or whatever it is, or I don't remember exactly what it was. He goes to like the high school and everything. There's so many other Greek mythology people there, like Cassandra and Helen of Troy and, Icarus and so many other things. And Adonis and all this other stuff. But at one point in the series, he comes across a younger Meg, and she needs help going down to the underworld because she had this, they play it off as like, oh, I had this really bad love experience and like the guy was horrible and I just want to forget about him. So like they go down to the underworld and like Hercules helps her get down there, and they get the water that allows her to like forget. Because if there's like pools in the underworld, it's like there's a certain one that if you drink this water or bathe in this water, you will forget. Depending on like how much you drink or how much you bathe in it, you will forget who you are, forget something specific. And, Hercules helps Meg get this so she can forget about her boyfriend, but it kind of ends up erasing her from Hercules' memories and her from his vice versa. They erase each other's memories of each other, so he doesn't remember her and she doesn't remember him. So when they do meet up in the movie, it is still canonically they've never met before, or they don't remember meeting before. And then like I think that it's the last episode of the series, it's Hercules and Meg are like moving in together, and it's like after the movie takes place, it's they're moving in together, and like we just see the two of them together and it's just kind of adorable. But that's just like those are the relationships that we see for Meg and Hercules. And I know in mythology that it's Hercules kind of goes crazy at one point, ends up via Hera in the mythology, she makes him go crazy, and then he kills his wife and children, and then he goes through a whole bunch of other things to the labors are all to like amend what he did. But my whole thought, even when it came to like Hercules in the mythology, is that like his original wife in the mythology, I don't think she's ever named in the mythology, but like Meg's kind of supposed to be like an interpretation of her. His original wife in the mythology is his soulmate, is his true love. And that's why he's so heartbroken and torn up, and why he goes through so much in order to make amends for what happened. For what he did to her when he was in this state of, madness that Hera put on him. And what we see is, for Hercules' story, by the end of Hercules, the actual mythos is that he, makes this pyre and he burns himself on the pyre, and his immortal soul, the part of him that is a god, ascends to heaven. And the other half of him, his human soul, that was the half of his soul that was human, goes down to the underworld. So there's like two of them now, if I remember correctly from some of the mythology that I've read. And like him, the one that goes to, that becomes the god, gets to be with Hebibi, the goddess of youth or whatever is what she was, and she's like another child of like Hera and Zeus, so she's technically Hercules' half sister, but the gods don't care about that in mythology. Mythology doesn't matter with that. Incest is fine in mythology. Look at Greek and Roman and Egyptian mythology. There's incest all over the place there. All over the place. And what ends up happening is, of course, my whole thought about that was that, the part of him that was human, the part of him that, went down to the underworld, that is waiting, found his, his first wife, and like that they're together again in the underworld type of a thing. It was like that was who he was meant to be with type of thing. So yeah, he's got two wives, but he also had like several wives during all of his time doing all of the tasks and everything. But that's a completely different video if I ever do that in the past, or ever do that at some point. But that's what we have for all of the Disney human couples. You may be wondering why I don't have any of the couples from like Encanto on this, so that would be like Alma and Pedro, so Abuela and Pedro, and Julieta and Augusta and Felix and Peppa and Dolores and Mariano. I was just like, I know his name. It's Mariano. Well, I don't have them on this list. That is such a new movie that I haven't been around the couples enough or like seen the movie enough to be able to determine where I would place them amongst these different these other couples. At some point in the future, I might do something with that, but at the moment, there's not enough of a attachment that I have to the couples. I do like the couples. I think most of the couples that are in Encanto are very adorable and very sweet, but they're just not on this list because they're not something that is just like, oh, I know exactly where to place them with the rest of these couples. These are all couples that have been, even like, Nani and David or different things like that have been, were part of my childhood and everything like that. They're like couples that I grew up watching either in the series or in the movies or whatever. And like, they've been around in my brain for so long, for like, over 10 years on some of them. So there's that difference there. It's just like, I've had these ones around for so long in regards to just how I feel about the couple. So, and that, it's like Tarzan and Jane and like Hercules and Meg, like they went back and forth a lot when I was trying to figure these out. And I'm just like, which one is which one? And I was just like, this is the way it is. I'm sorry. Hercules and Meg just slightly edge out Tarzan and Jane. I'm sorry. I still love both couples. I love all the couples on this list. They're on the list, so I do like them. So I thank you very much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed the video, and I hope that you have a nice rest of your day. Bye. Father, this is the moment I've always dreamed of. But a life without Meg, even an immortal life, would be empty. I wish to stay on Earth with her. I finally know where I belong.